Have you ever wondered why 2 hours on stage can look so unbelievably perfect? Why does every note Bruno Mars sings feel like magic? Every drumbeat seems to hit the audience's heartbeat, and every dance move lands with flawless precision. Is it simply a gift he was born with? Or is there a secret hidden behind the dazzling stadium lights? A sacrifice that even many of his biggest fans have never truly discovered. Because here is the astonishing truth. A typical Bruno Mars concert lasts around 2 hours. Just 2 hours. Yet the rehearsals leading up to that performance can stretch for countless hours every single day, continuing for days, or even weeks. According to people who have worked alongside him, Bruno Mars is not merely a singer who wants to put on a good show. He is an extreme perfectionist. No note is allowed to come in late. No brass section can be even slightly off. No dance move is permitted to look half-hearted. Everything has to be perfect. The question is, why? Why would someone who has already won countless awards, earned the love of millions across the globe, and established himself as one of the greatest entertainers of his generation continue pushing himself so relentlessly? What is he really chasing? And is the price of perfection simply too high? Today, we're stepping behind the curtain. We're going to explore the side of Bruno Mars that cameras rarely capture, the side that may be even more inspiring than the concert itself. We'll uncover why his rehearsals often last much longer than the show, how his obsession with every tiny detail has raised the standard for live entertainment, and the emotional reason that may fuel all of his relentless hard work. Trust me, once you hear this story, you'll never watch a Bruno Mars performance the same way again. Because sometimes, the applause that echoes through a stadium for 2 hours is built upon thousands of unseen hours that nobody ever gets to witness. When the stage lights come alive, and Bruno Mars walks to the center of the stage wearing his signature smile, everything appears effortless. Almost too effortless. That is the illusion created by truly great entertainers. They make extraordinary things look easy. They make hard work appear natural. They make perfection seem effortless. But behind that illusion lies a completely different reality. Most concertgoers arrive simply to enjoy the music. They sing along, dance, capture unforgettable moments on their phones, and leave with memories that last a lifetime. Very few stop to think about what happened before the concert even began. Very few imagine how much sweat had already fallen before the very first spotlight lit up the stage. Picture this. An empty stadium. No cheering fans. No dazzling lights. No television cameras. Just thousands of empty seats stretching as far as the eye can see. Standing on that silent stage is Bruno Mars alongside his band. The same song plays repeatedly. One section is repeated, then repeated again, and again. Not because they don't know how to perform it, but because Bruno believes it still isn't perfect. Many legendary musicians are known for their discipline, but Bruno Mars has built a reputation for holding incredibly high standards, not only for himself, but for everyone around him. Every drumbeat must carry exactly the right amount of energy. Every brass instrument must enter at precisely the perfect moment. Every vocal harmony must feel alive. Even tiny transitions that the audience may never consciously notice receive extraordinary attention. And this is where people begin to understand something important. Bruno Mars isn't simply preparing for a concert. He's creating an experience. There is an enormous difference between someone who steps on stage merely to sing, and someone who walks on stage determined to create a memory that tens of thousands of people will cherish for the rest of their lives. Perhaps that explains why so many fans leave his concerts with tears in their eyes. Not just because of the songs, not just because of the nostalgia, but because they experience something incredibly rare. They feel seen. They feel as though someone truly gave every piece of his heart to them. And isn't that what everyone is searching for? In a world that moves faster every day, where so many things are rushed and unfinished, witnessing someone give 100% of themselves is deeply moving. Perhaps that is why so many adult and senior fans feel such a powerful emotional connection with Bruno Mars. They have lived long enough to understand that true excellence always requires sacrifice. They know that the most beautiful things in life are rarely created through the easiest path. Bruno understands that better than most. He grew up surrounded by music. From an early age, he learned that the stage is never a place to pretend. It is where every rehearsal, every drop of sweat, every failure, and every sacrifice is ultimately tested. Maybe that's why he has never treated the stage with anything less than complete respect. There is a reason why so many legendary performers share the same habit. They practice far harder than anyone ever imagines. Because they understand one simple truth that the world often forgets. Talent may help someone get noticed, but discipline is what keeps them there. Look at Bruno Mars' career. Remaining at the top for so many years is no accident. Staying relevant in an industry that changes constantly is not simply good fortune. Maintaining that level of excellence requires extraordinary effort. And that effort almost always happens far away from the spotlight. There is no applause during rehearsals. No trending headlines when someone repeats the same song for hours. No standing ovation for fixing a tiny detail that most people will never even notice. Yet Bruno keeps doing it. Again. And again. And again. Because for a perfectionist, knowing something can still be better is often stronger than the feeling of exhaustion. But there is another side to perfectionism that people rarely talk about. Perfectionism isn't only about having high standards. It can also become a heavy burden. Imagine the pressure of knowing that millions of people expect your very best every single night. Imagine realizing that every concert will inevitably be compared to the last one. Imagine carrying the reputation of being one of the greatest entertainers in the world. That kind of pressure could break many people. But for Bruno Mars, pressure seems to become fuel. Every expectation pushes him to rehearse even harder. Every compliment makes him even more careful. Every success never allows him to relax. Instead, success forces him to ask one frightening question. What if tomorrow I have to become even better? And perhaps that is Bruno Mars' greatest secret. He isn't competing against other artists. He's competing against the person he was yesterday. Against the version of himself from the previous concert. Against the version of himself that still hasn't reached its full potential. To some people, that sounds exhausting. But for Bruno Mars, it may be the very reason he continues to evolve. Fans often describe his performances with one unforgettable phrase. They say Bruno Mars performs every concert as if it were the last performance of his life. It sounds like a simple statement. But think about it carefully. If someone truly performs that way every single night, how much energy does it demand? How many hours of rehearsal are required to maintain that level of excellence? How many personal sacrifices must be made behind the scenes? And perhaps the biggest question of all, is every one of those sacrifices worth it? Maybe the answer can be found in the faces of his fans. In the tears that fall when their favorite song begins. In the couples who relive their youth through Bruno's music. In the thousands of people who leave the stadium smiling long after the final encore. Because in the end, music isn't just about sound. Music is about emotion. And genuine emotion can never be faked. That is why rehearsing far longer than the concert itself isn't simply a story about obsession. It is a story about dedication. A story about respecting the audience. A story about a man who still believes that every single person who buys a ticket deserves to receive the very best version of himself. But the deeper we look into Bruno Mars' perfectionism, the more obvious it becomes that something far more emotional is hidden beneath it all. A reason that may have nothing to do with trophies, awards, or record-breaking success. And that reason will transform this story from one about endless rehearsals into a story about heart, identity, and the greatest fear of an entertainer loved by millions around the world.